education. Yesterday we talked about adult literacy. In fact, tomorrow being the 8th of September, we're marking International Literacy Day. And annually we celebrate it or we commemorate it with a specific theme, specific to each country as well. So Ghana has its own theme and we'll be getting into that conversation soon. But again, the statistics are not so encouraging, especially with COVID-19. I was even shocked to realize that yesterday was when schools in Mexico opened and students had to go to school for the first time since the pandemic. And so it was a little confusing for many of them. And in fact, they were expecting a greater number of them. It was only about half of them that showed up. And so for a country like Ghana and some parts of Africa, I guess that we've been lucky with how COVID has dealt with us. But regardless, it still dealt a heavy blow on our education system. And it's important that as we mark International Literacy Day, we have a conversation about what we're doing to improve upon literacy in the country. And I'll just give you some statistics with regards to Ghana's situation, because last year we marked it and there was a concern about the fact that Ghana is the country, or sub-Saharan Africa has the second lowest literacy rate across the world. And that's already very disturbing. But also a greater number of Ghanaians are said, to have just gotten just one part of education. And I'll just give you those statistics now. So it says that the UNESCO 2019 reveals that despite progress made, literacy challenges persist with at least 773 million adults worldwide lacking basic literacy skills today. And according to the 2018 World Development Report, nearly 80% of Ghana's working age population have just had one level literacy or below. And so that means that their literacy proficiency is limited to understanding basic text, but they are not able to integrate, evaluate, or interpret information from a variety of text materials. What's the theme for this year and how do we intend to mark International Literacy Day? Andrew Ofosudenchi is the Technical Programs Manager on Education at World Vision Ghana, and he joins us this morning. Good morning, and thank you for joining us. Tomorrow is the big day.
For having me.
How important is this day? Because, I mean, there are a lot of concerns, especially for days that are set aside, because it looks as if we wait till that particular day, we make so much noise about a particular problem, and then we go back to factory settings again. So how significant is World Literacy Day to Ghanaians especially?
So you recall that in March last year, the schools had to be closed down. And some 9 million children who depend on school for learning had to stay home for close to a year. So this year's celebration gives us an opportunity to take stock of what we did for these children whilst they were home, and then to look ahead so that should there be a problem like that again, what can we do differently as a country?
What is the literacy situation in the country based on COVID-19 and its effects on our educational system?
The last statistics we could have for literacy in Ghana was done in 2015, the early grade reading assessment. And only 2% of our grade 2 children could read a grade level text with comprehension. And out of that text, about 50% of these children could not identify a single letter sound, which is the basis for learning using to read. And so it tells you that the situation is very bad. Even though our adult literacy rate is about 71%, like you rightly said in your introduction, they are levels, and most of our adult literacy are around the emergent or beginning readers, so most of them cannot read to decipher the meaning from what text they read.
We'll come to the adults shortly, but talking about those statistics, and I remember that we hammered on this a lot before the 2020 elections, which is why the MPP said they had to restructure the curriculum to introduce more practicals and, more reading lessons and stuff, just to enable these children to know a lot more than just the letters and stuff. Have you done any assessments as World Vision since the introduction of the curriculum? It's come with its own challenges as well, but has there been any assessment so far on the impact that this may have on education in the country?
So far, I have not chanced on any assessment with regards to the new standard curriculum. But the situation still persists because there hasn't been any significant interventions across the country that support children to read. Basically, World Vision, World Reader had been doing some interventions in our clusters where we work with some other districts the result is changing, but it is not as significant nationwide as we expected.
Okay. What's your challenge with the lack of textbooks? Because teachers have been complaining. Unfortunately, the students don't have it. These teachers are asked to go online and download some of these, the syllabus so they can educate students. Now we've been told by the Ghana Education Service that textbooks will be available in January when they go back for the next academic year. But we've waited. It's been 2 years since a change in the curriculum, and students don't have these textbooks.
So this is my view on textbooks. Textbooks are supposed to be used by teachers. Any person who uses the textbooks should have a teacher's guide, which always comes with a textbook. So with or without textbooks, a teacher should be able to teach. What the standard-based curriculum seeks to do is simply setting what children should be able to do and know at a particular grade level. It does not change the nouns or verbs that we learned. It does not change the plant or oxygen that we learned. All these documents, the past textbooks could be able to support.
Okay.
What the teacher needs to know is, if I have a grade 2 children, at the end of the year, what are they able to do? What are they able to know? Okay. That is what the standard-based curriculum seeks to do.
But is it not better when the students also have it? At a point where we're also saying that we hope that every student will have a textbook.
Yes. I don't want to go into the politics of that, but the point is that I'm trying to say that the things that they need to learn are still available. So you can launch on any textbook, previous textbook, and still have what you want to take, and the children will have what reference material they need to do.
Let's talk about the adults as well, because yesterday we had a conversation with the team from the non-formal educational sector of the Ministry of Education, and they complained about the challenges that they also face in providing literacy opportunities to adults, because funding, budgetary allocation is very paltry, and so they have to spend their own money to even move around to these communities and educate these adults. We're looking at 71% of our adult population only having the first level of education. How do we intend to improve this when even budgetary allocation to the agency that's supposed to run this agenda is not that much? What can we do as a country?
I think that adult education is not the sole preserve of the government. I mean, I do remember reading a lot of literature about some churches supporting members to learn to read. So it's a thing that if we really want to educate our adult population, all as a family must come together to help support the complementary education division. Okay. So that they can administer their work. They could even fall on volunteers. For example, World Vision is currently doing after-school reading clubs for almost about 320 communities across Ghana. Okay. And we are using volunteers. And these people have been trained and they are providing. And we have some churches, communities supporting these children to learn to read. So it shouldn't be budget from the government. Maybe they need budget, especially for running their day-to-day business, but they need to go out of the box and look creative ways of engaging other stakeholders to support them to learn, to implement their programs.
What's the theme for tomorrow's celebration? Do we have a specific theme for each country?
No, but each country can derive a specific theme from the main one, global theme. And our theme for Ghana's celebration is leveraging digital technology for teaching and learning during COVID, the case of the rural child.
Why that?
We realized that during the COVID era, there was an attempt to use digital technology to support learning. But unfortunately for most children in the rural communities, they were shortchanged with this kind of technology. Where there are even tablets, they don't have electricity to even charge them. The network wasn't really flip-flopping. They don't have access to radio or TV. So for some children in some communities, the 1 year was spent simply sitting and idling about. World Vision, World Reader, we did some couple of interventions to support these children to read. Like I said earlier, our interventions may go to a certain point, but may not have a wider coverage. But the majority of children were those who couldn't have access to any kind of reading for almost close to 1 year. So you can imagine the deficit in learning that the nation has to catch up with. from now till some years to come.
I was going to come to that because I was wondering what the impact on reading was from COVID, especially for these kids in the rural communities. At least they may have 1 or 2 books here and there, but that's not enough, especially since they were home for, what, close to a year or so. Yeah. It must have had a toll on them.
A very difficult one. I mean, if you look at education services provision, when you move from Accra to, say, Afram Plains, the services reduce in quality and in quantity. So you can imagine a child in Huehue or Fanchinibla. By the time you get there, there's absolutely no kind of education service provided. So for these children who were even trying to break through to literacy, for 1 year staying at home, I met teachers who tell me they have moved from whatever they had to 0. So you probably have to start from the scratch. So for most of our children in the rural community, that have been really hard hit.
So what is World Vision doing about this in celebrating International Literacy Day tomorrow? How does this tie into World Reader as well?
So World Vision and World Reader implemented a couple of activities using digital technology during the COVID era to support rural children to learn to read. Tomorrow, what we'll be discussing is to showcase some of these technologies that World Vision implemented, World Reader implemented. There are other agencies who also did their Widow's Mind, for example, Pencils of Promise, UNESCO. So we are going to converge at a point and to discuss these and see which ones shows promise and for which we can begin to look through it, think through it and say, okay, should we have a situation like this? This is what we are going to adapt as a country.
I wish we had seen some of the technology at least, whatever it is that was introduced by World Reader and World Vision. I wish we could see it on TV so we understand. But you're saying that we're going to converge. Where? Is this
it will be a Zoom webinar.
Okay, can you give us details on who can join and if they can participate, what do they have to do?
Everyone in this country who has children at heart should join.
Okay.
The Zoom link is on World Vision Facebook page and on World Reader page. All our social media handles have the link. We'll also share with you right after here so that you can post it on your. So anybody who joins will have a feel of it. We have experts who are going to talk about digital reading and how to support children learning. I mean, low-cost digital devices to support children's learning.
Is this in collaboration with the Ministry of Communication, if I may ask? Because they're also very heavy on digitization. So I thought,
this is not in
okay. But finally, before you go, so what would you like to see change with regards to literacy among children?
I think that as a nation, we have not come to appreciate the role of literacy in our national development. It is said that every nation's development follows the learning curve of its children. If your children are not learning, your country is not developing. So I think that we need to sit back and begin to look at early grade reading. Because if a child can learn math, a child can learn creative art, or a child can learn science, he needs to read. So if a child cannot read, he cannot learn science, he cannot learn math. So the point is that we are running a series of cyclical pretensions. The children are pretending to learn and going to school, teachers pretending to teach, education administrator pretending to administer education, and then we are all, at the end of the day, we go back to sleep and happy. But the real ingredient of this is that our children are not learning. But the painful part of it is that the children are in school. I mean, if you look at sub-Saharan Africa, including Ghana, Nigeria, Ghana has the highest in terms of enrollment, which means few children are out of our school system. Almost every single child is in school. But what is happening is that they are not learning because they can't read. If you can't read, you can't learn. So it breaks my heart to see these children ready to be in school, but actually they are doing practically nothing.
We hope that something is done about it. And so tomorrow, there's going to be a webinar. And so look forward to it. What time will it be again?
And it starts at 9:30. 9:30
a.m. And so please log on to the World Vision pages on Facebook and World Reader as well, on Facebook and other social media platforms, and get updated or apprised with whatever the plans are so you can be part of the celebration tomorrow. Let's all contribute our quota to ensure that literacy, improves in the country. Thank you so much for speaking to us. Andrew Ofosu-Denchi is the Technical Programs Manager, Education at World Vision Ghana. Cookie has a conversation about how you can make a living through art. Art is growing by the day, and so how do you make some small change as you still carry on with your dream? That's a conversation we'll be having right after this. This is still TV3 New Day. We'll be right back.